Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Straightforward Farming Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Reed, alongside Mr. Nick McCormick. And Nick just come back from Pulltown, USA. Tell us a little bit about that, where it's at, what it is.
Pulltown, USA, Bowling Green, Ohio. The largest tractor pull in the world, to my knowledge. And it is, if you've never been there, you're missing out. It's a really nice party that a tractor pull happens to break out at. And you just can't really hardly even describe it. There's nothing better than Saturday night, Bowling Green, lights are on. People are just, excited to be there. And especially this year, with everything being closed, I think everybody's ready to get back. And
yeah. I've always been fascinated when I'll see pictures, whether it's on TikTok, or video, whatever, of how many people are there. I mean, it's like a stadium. I mean, there's just bleachers.
There are bleachers everywhere. I can't tell you the numbers of how many it holds, but it's a lot. It's in the top 5 largest campgrounds in the world.
Wow.
That basically gets used one time a year.
Yeah, that's something.
I think there's 2,100 campsites there,
man, roughly.
And last I had talked to anybody, they were all but sold out.
Mercy.
On campsites. So,
yeah, that's pretty impressive. And Bowling Green, is that in the southern part?
No, it's in northwest Ohio. So
Northwest.
Just south of Toledo.
Okay. North
of Findlay, south of Toledo. Right off of, I think that's 75. We don't take that route. We come across 6. But, yeah, it's just something to see. I mean, the campground is indescribable. But so there's lots of people that make creative ways to get around the campground, right? So they might have a Cub Cadet with dual glass packs on it and duals, chains on the tires, pulling a custom-made picnic table that looks like a 1066, with people sitting on it and pulling them around, just all around the campground, just cruising, all kinds of custom stuff like that. I think there was, I think they weren't there this year because I think they're from Canada. I could be wrong on that, but they made a sled. They called it the Caterchiller, I think, and it holds refrigerated adult beverages, and it looks like a sled, but it's self-propelled, and they drive it around. They get people sit on it.
No kidding.
And they drive it all over. They won the cooler contest a few years back, I think. All kinds of custom-made coolers and whatnot.
So they have a cooler contest then?
They used to, and they brought it back. I think that might have been for the 50th when they brought it back. I don't remember now. It's been too long ago. But it used to be a really big deal, and in a post-9/11 world, coolers had to get smaller.
Gotcha.
Because apparently jihad's coming in coolers. So they made the cooler, they put a cooler restriction on how big you could carry in. But out in the campground, there's, like I said, it's not uncommon to have a self-propelled cooler.
Wow.
Like one of the funniest things I've ever seen out there is we were driving around and we saw this guy had his school bus parked in his campsite in the corner. This has been 5, 6, 7 years ago. Okay, no big deal. We see this, I believe it was an old Chevy pickup with a whole truckload of lumber in it. Like, who brings a truckload of lumber to a campground? No big deal. We cruise around. We go back out there the next day or later on or whatever, that in the evening. This guy has built an entire deck / stage and screwed it to the side of this school bus. And we're not talking a small stage. We're talking the whole length of a school bus, basically, and probably 10 foot deep. I mean, he decked the whole thing out, literally. He built an entire deck off the side of it and whatnot. It's just stuff like that. I mean, just one after the other, just different cool vehicles to cruise. There'll be side-by-sides and four-wheelers and so on and so forth. But there's a lot of guys have custom this, a 782 Cub Cadet with a roll cage.
Right.
Just all kinds of stuff just that they built specifically for this one event.
I seen a picture on, I think it was Instagram, of it was like a white lawnmower, but it had been stretched out. I mean, it almost looked like a farm tractor. You could tell it was a white lawnmower, but he had duals on it, and it was stretched quite a ways, and he was pulling, I don't remember now if it was a wagon or what, people hanging all over it and whatnot. He was riding a wheelie in the picture or whatever.
Oh, yeah. There used to be, I didn't see it this year, but there used to be a guy that had it was an old Cub Cadet, an old yellow and white one, pretty vintage one way back, and he had built little chairs on wheels, and he pulled them in a train. So he had 15 of these seats that you would pull behind that thing, and it would just zigzag along and follow him wherever he went, round and around.
Wow.
There was, at one time, there was an S10 that had a pontoon boat mounted to it. So they would have 2 rows of people in this pontoon boat, basically. But this guy's driving it around, because it's the S10 underneath, and they would take it out and hop the clutch. They'd all move to the back and hop the clutch and ride wheelies in it and whatnot. I think they finally smoked the clutch in it that night. I don't know if I've ever seen it since. They must have scrapped it after that, but just anything you can imagine is
Wasn't there a deal you'd said years ago, like with couches, like people would bring?
Yeah, so they used to have all kinds of couches and stuff they would bring and put next to the track instead of lawn chairs and whatnot. Now it's all pretty much lawn chairs. I don't know if lawn chairs got better or if they banned the couches. I don't really know. But for a while, they used to have what they called the running of the chairs. So at a certain time, like the Saturday before the pole, everybody would set their chairs out, and then they kind of made it a race. Well, that got to be kind of dangerous. So now it's the walking of the chairs.
Gotcha.
But you claim your spot and put your stake down, and that's where you can sit along the track or whatever. But it's just a great time all the way around, and it is a killer tractor pull. The track's great. The blue shirts there do a great job. NTPA does a phenomenal job on their part. Larry Richwine and the guys, they do a really good job. Larry's apparently a big fan of yours.
Oh, yeah.
He's looking to meet you.
Really?
Yeah. So we'll have to make that happen at some point. But,
yeah, for sure. I wish I could have went. I know, some people had asked and whatnot. And like I say, we've been on 2 family vacations this summer. Then went to the Missouri Music Festival, and I've been gone more than I've been home, it seems like. And with Harvest coming on, there just wasn't no way I could make it happen. Yeah,
no, I hear you. It's the only pull in the world that people start showing up on Monday.
Yeah.
Tuesday, for a Thursday, Friday, Saturday pull. So it,
how many people do you think attend that overall? I
think they gave a number, but I don't remember what it was now, Tony.
By looking at the stands on both sides of the track, there's several thousand people there at any
there's several thousand people there at any given time in the seats, whatnot. This year was a little bit off, like I said, because the Canadians couldn't get in. And normally I think they say that thing averages 15 to 20% Canadians.
No kidding.
Because it's not that far.
Well, yeah, I guess it wouldn't be.
So they couldn't attend, but there were still plenty of people there and whatnot, and it's...
Yeah, because you told me a couple weeks ago they'd been coming for how many years? There's like a group of Canadians?
Yeah, they've been coming for, I'm going to just say a rough number, 20 years.
Yeah.
And the one group of them have never been to the pole. Like, they just stayed in the campground, Of course, maybe they could watch it on a live stream. I didn't have good enough signal. That's why I didn't put any TikTok videos up. I never could get anything to load.
Yeah.
I tried, and there's just too many people in one spot,
Is that kind of one of them deals where there's not much else that goes on in that particular part of the state? Like, I don't know where the Ohio State Fair is. Is that like the big deal for that?
Yeah, probably so. I think roughly, somebody told me that they did a study a couple years back, and that brings like $80 million into the greater, we'll call it Tri-County, for lack of a better term. Sure. More than 3 counties, but, we'll call it 6 counties. That region of Ohio bring, between hotel rooms and food and this, that, and the other, so it's a pretty big deal for their economy, no doubt.
How big of a town is Bowling Green itself? Is it?
It's a college town.
Okay.
So BGSU is there, Bowling Green State. So it's a decent sized town, but it's not not huge.
So it could be 30,000 people or something.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's that big.
Really?
But yeah, probably right. I'd have to look it up. I honestly can't tell you. I've never seen a sign that shows the population on it because we don't come in that direction. Sure. I don't know.
That's one state I've never tromped around in. I've been all the way through Ohio, like on 70 or something, going somewhere, but I've never really done much in Ohio.
Ohio's kind of neat, in my opinion, because it's, you don't really think about it, but it's so much older than Illinois. Mm-hmm. Probably not a ton, but enough that things change as you get further east, especially, Eastern Ohio is different than Western Ohio, in my opinion, from what little bit I've been around. I'm in no way an expert in Ohio geography. But it seems like, anytime we get to the east, like there's a lot of antique shops and so on and so forth, and stuff's older. The roads are smaller, narrower, et cetera. And as you start getting west, things get bigger because they were built later once people realized, hey, we got to get bigger stuff around.
Yeah, makes sense.
But I like Ohio. It's wide. It takes a long time to get across it. But by and large, that's where the best pulling tracks in the country probably are, is in Ohio. They got good dirt out there for it. And they've been doing it a long time. And they're some of the best events you'll ever go to are in Ohio. Yeah. And Bowling Green's as big as it gets,
I've seen several TikTok videos of people that I'm not even friends with on there that videoed you on TikTok going down the track.
So Saturday night, I was the last vehicle for the 54th annual Bowling Green Reloaded tractor pull.
Really?
And it was actually pretty cool. I was a little bit awestruck, not going to lie to you, pulling out on the track. The announcers pumped everybody up, and everybody stood up.
Oh, yeah.
For the most part. And it's like, I kind of wanted to stop and get my phone out and take a picture.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, wow, this must be what pro sports is like.
Sure, yeah.
You know, and then I obviously didn't win, but it would have been super cool if I would have.
Yeah, no kidding.
Especially being last took on that, you know, it would have been neat.
Yeah.
But it was still pretty awesome just to drive out there and, you know, look to the left, look to the right, which I normally don't do much of, but I could hear the announcer. And it's like, wow, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be.
Met a lot of great people, which I always do out there. I mean, tractor pulling in general, the fans are, you know, just salt of the earth, just good people. Mm-hmm. With this TikTok deal and the podcast thing and whatever, I got a lot of feedback and whatnot. You know, from a lot of people who are listening and whatnot. Apparently, it was very humbling. Very nice. Hung out with Red Power Stu and a bunch of his buddies. Had a great time with those guys. I should have put something out earlier, I guess, that I was going to be there. But I didn't get around to it. We were busy getting the tractor ready. And like I said, then I didn't have a signal. And I should have did it Tuesday when we got there before everybody showed up and the signal all went away. But, yeah, just an awesome event.
Yeah, I'm going to have to make it a point to go out there next year. You know, it just, like you say, it just sounds like a really good time, a lot of good people, you know. And I had a ton of messages asking if I was going, but I just couldn't make it happen. I wish I could have, but
I couldn't even begin to tell you the number of people asked me if you were there.
Yeah,
you know, which is like I said, very humbling.
It is,
you know,
yeah.
and awesome. You know, all wrapped up into one. So, like I said, thank you to everybody that come up and said, hey, we like the podcast, or hey, you know, saw you on TikTok, or hey, tell Tony, you know, to have a shitty day, or,
right.
You know, whatever they told me. I got a variety of comments. So
now I got to ask, what did your dad think? Because the last time I ran into your dad in person, he's like, this goddamn TikTok.
It's funny you mentioned that. So we get the first batch of people that come over to the trailer and like start in on it, you know, which is fine. I'm super grateful for him coming over. And I just glanced over my dad. He's just sitting there shaking his head.
And you got to know Nick's dad. He's what, 73?
73.
So
73 while we were there, actually.
Yeah, so, you know, he's not into TikTok, social media, none of that, you know, so he can't wrap his brain around any of this to start with.
He's like, I can't take you anywhere now. All these people want to talk about this damn podcast. I don't even know what they're talking about because he doesn't listen,
right.
You know. So he was a little bit taken back. I mean, we had pretty good T-shirt sales this year out of it and whatnot, and he's just like, I just can't believe that. And when I got home, Mom's like, so your dad tells me that can't take you anywhere anymore. I'm like, yeah, pretty much, yeah. That's where we're at. Like I said, it's very humbling. Very, you know, I'm super honored to have people listen and, you know, and to give us positive feedback on it. You know, so
that basically is what we're getting at. We're not going to make your dad our PR man.
No, we're probably not putting him in charge of that. He still doesn't know what a podcast is or what TikTok is. So, but it was pretty comical to talk to some people that have, you know, a few years older than me on up to, you know, several years older than me that, you know, are on TikTok now and know you through TikTok and know that you and I know, you know, they know me or have known me for 20 years.
Yeah.
But now this has kind of brought them clear full circle.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny, you know, like I was telling the one guy, I'm like, you don't even need TV now, do you? He's like, nope. He's like, I just sit at night and scroll through that. And I'm like, yeah.
I'm the same way.
I'm the same way too.
I got a routine. I get home, I watch the local news to catch the weather. Then I watch TikTok till 9 or 10 o'clock when Friends comes on, depending on which night. Watch that till I fall asleep and do it again the next day.
Yeah, it's something else. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I tell you, me and Cody Gayer and Ryan Peter and a bunch of us talk all the time, and it's unbelievable how big of an audience you do reach and don't even think about it. I mean, to me, it's about like a Facebook account. You know, you're reaching 500 local people, and that's it. But that's clearly not the case.
No,
I don't mean this in any bragging.
No, I don't. I'm not bragging on it or meaning it in a bad way at all. It flabbergasts me a little bit, the number of people that commented on the podcast that I assumed were not podcast people. Right. And maybe they weren't prior to this. I don't know. If they are now, great. You know, that's even makes me even happier. But it wasn't uncommon for me to be walking along, somebody swing up in a side by side and say, "Hey, you know, love it, keep it up, and cruise on." You know, which is pretty
really
neat.
Even the weirder part on that is, you know, you don't have the big presence on TikTok where they're seeing your face, but somehow they're recognizing you from a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. You know, they probably recognize the name just because I've pulled so long. Yeah. But some of those people I've never met. You know, they might have seen me, but now, you know, we've met and whatnot. So it's very neat.
Yeah, the whole deal's just been. I still can't wrap my brain around it, and it even puts it into more perspective when we all got into the destroying crop videos, and then we were on InfoWars with Alex Jones inadvertently.
Yeah, that started to grow.
Now I hear there's a letter circulating through Farm Bureau in D.C., and I don't know what all, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that whole thing kind of grew its own set of wheels and took off. And there was a lot of people that wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, and if anything, that ought to show, whether you take the Farm Bureau, take your pick, but that ought to show them how screwed up their educational system is with their consumers, because these people clearly have no clue.
They have no clue, and it proves the power of social media, right? For
sure.
Like, I mean, you convinced farm people for a second there that they were missing out on some money. And how come he's getting paid and I'm not? You know, they start calling around wanting to know what the program is, or wanting to know what, are we only doing this in certain areas, or what's going on? I think a lot of people initially had to watch that video multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
Even people that knew better to make sure that, what's going on here? So, like I said, if you tell somebody something long enough, I think you can convince them of anything, and this just proves it.
And as long as you can do something straight-faced and just go with it, they'll believe it. Because I'll never forget back when I was on my big Alaska kick forever, there was one guy, he made a comment one day, he said, "God damn it, I've been following you for 6 months, and I know damn well you don't live in Alaska, but you've almost got me convinced you live in Alaska."
Yeah. Which, the straight faith thing does sell it very well. You're good at that, for sure. You need to get into playing cards more.
Yeah, I guess. But it does show you how the mainstream media has got by with what they have, either side of the aisle, or pick your topic. It don't have to be politics. It can be anything.
No, it can be anything,
And as long as they sell it to you with a straight face and make it look believable, people will buy right into it. And
well, because you hear something a couple of times, and you're like, I wonder if there's any validity to that. But how many people actually do the research on it?
Not very many.
And then you got to find legitimate research to do on it, because it could just be another guy bullshitting you about it.
Yeah.
So you still don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
It's hard to find actual hard-hitting, real factual news on almost any topic you pick.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, there was emails floating around our local FSA office about the crop destruction, because people were calling in, and it kind of went up the branch a little bit, and then people were like, well, I think we figured out where it come from.
Whoops, sorry.
Yeah. But I guess I finally got to the point to where I don't think that the form of education that these lobby groups are using is working. So to me, it proved a point that this is how far out of reality we are. And just giving kids a coloring sheet and telling them to color a pig that live in Chicago ain't cutting it.
Well, sadly enough, if you think about it, I mean, your 160-second video reached more people than 15 years and probably $200 million worth of their, quote unquote education, farm education did.
Yeah.
It's like, well, maybe we ought to try a new tactic.
Yeah. We were talking earlier this evening how, I never realized how the American people thought of farmers as welfare queens, which for the most part they are, but I didn't realize, that's one spot or one topic, I guess you would say, that apparently they do teach in cities, because, I mean, this is full-blown city people never been off the pavement that are just bitching at farmers, subsidies this and subsidies that. But, to me, the Farm Bureau, that's where they need to go to the city and teach these people that, our whatever the figure is, $50 billion farm bill. Yeah. 90% of that is coming to the city to feed these welfare people.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going back to the farm, but they don't ever want to talk about that kind of stuff.
No, they always leave that part out. Yeah. Well, we got to throw food stamps in with it, or we can't get anything passed.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that's the right approach to it. Those are two completely separate issues. Yes, growing food and eating food are not necessarily the same.
For sure. But I think if I was head of Farm Bureau, whether at the state level, national level, whatever, and after seeing all these videos and how believable and viral that they went, I think I'd be scratching my head on our education tactics, because it's clearly not working, whatever they're doing.
Yeah, something's got to change there a little bit, but it's like everything that you ever get into. Well, this is the way we've always done it, so we're going to keep doing it this way.
Yep. Once again, we've probably got somebody in there that's been there for 40 years and has no intention of giving the position up, and so it'll just be the status quo.
I got in a couple of those conversations on a variety of topics this last weekend, and it was the same thing every time. Somebody had an idea. No, that's not how we've always done it. Okay, we'll just keep doing it then. Mm-hmm. We're hoping to grow. Yeah, but we're trying the same tactics we've always tried.
Yep. Yeah,
and we're all guilty of that to a certain degree, and get stuck in a rut. I've always marketed corn the same way,
for sure.
So I'm upset that I missed the highs,
Right.
And I hit the lows, but I'm going to keep doing the same thing. So
yeah, our marketing guy, which I'm sure there's probably several listeners that subscribe to him too, Kevin Van Trump out of Kansas City. Very good. I love his morning comments and all the information that he gives you. And he made a comment here about a week ago, and I'd never really thought of it this way. He was talking about how whether you're a 400-acre farmer, 4,000-acre farmer, whatever, every year you should be trying a little bit of new things. Take a company, whether it's John Deere, IH, whoever, every year they spend X amount of dollars on R&D.
Yeah.
And it just is what it is. And so he's like, why wouldn't the small farmer do that too? You need to be putting a little bit of money aside to try something on a small scale. You don't have to go all in.
Yeah.
And I'd never really heard it put that way, but it makes sense,
Yeah.
And kind of get away from that. Just we've always done it this way, and that'll never work. And we tried that 20 years ago, and things change, machinery change.
There's a lot of things that if you look back and say, well, we tried that 20 years ago, it's not going to work. It did end up working, or a version of it did end up working, but a lot of other things had to fall into place. But if you automatically write it off, it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I mean, you can equate that to any number of things. We run into that in the motorsports world. Well, that won't work. We tried that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but a lot of other things have changed. Turbos have gotten better. Fuel pumps have gotten better. There's a lot of other things that play into that.
Yeah. I mean, even at a farming perspective, we have to farm different now than we did 20 years ago because the weather patterns have changed.
Yes.
And I'm not saying we're global warming, whatever, or man-made global warming anyway, but weather patterns have changed. They have.
Well, we didn't plant in mid-early April when we were kids. We didn't even think about it.
Exactly.
You couldn't.
Yep.
But like I said, the climate's changed, tillage practices have changed, a few things have.
I've even said on no-till, a lot of guys, well, we tried no-till 30 years ago, it didn't work. And I mean, everybody knows my stance on no-till from TikTok, but the machinery nowadays can no-till. When you had the old planters on runners and shit, they wouldn't go in the ground, and it didn't work. But you got machinery now that will go in the ground, and you can no-till if you want to no-till.
Yeah, absolutely. In our particular area, the climate's changed enough on that I don't know that's probably the number one thing that's nipped it for us. We used to no-till a lot more than we do now because in mid-early April, you can't do it. The ground, if you don't open the ground up, it's cold, et cetera. Right. And we were doing it at the end of May. Yeah, you're just hoping to get the drill on the ground by then because it was bone dry. And,
when we were younger, that was always the thing with no-till was you had that moisture conserved going through the summer. And now it's like, well, that's not a problem. You get an inch of rain every week.
Yeah.
So it's not that big of an issue. It used to be, in my opinion, I think no-till beans around here would out-yield conventional beans every time 10 years ago. I don't know that that's the case now, but then it would. But, these summer patterns have changed. It's just wetter in the summer. So.
Yeah, and they have, take the guys, and I think this is the case in northern Illinois. I could be wrong, but, they're going back to 30-inch beans because they get enough more moisture now that then they run into white mold and some other issues. So they've went back to wider spacings where that wasn't the trend 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
Yeah, when we were in high school, everybody no-till drilled.
Yes.
I mean, everybody.
And you haven't had a great day until you fill the no-till grill with a 5-gallon bucket multiple times a day.
Yeah.
There's just no good way to have fun doing that.
Right.
You wouldn't do that for free beer for life.
No, for sure.
That's just not fun. And
then around here, everybody went to 15-inch, and then once they outgrew their 16-row planters, went 24. For a while, they kind of got in the deal of, well, we're just going to have one planter, so they went back to 30-inch.
Yeah.
Now the big deal is planting your beans first, so then they went and bought another planter, so now we're kind of back to 15s again.
Yeah.
So
one of those deals that if you'd have tried that 20 yeyears ago, they'd have laughed at you.
Yeah, for sure. They would have.
You're going to plant your beans first? You can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, things always do change. Some for the better, some for the worse.
Yeah.
But things always change.
Yeah. How'd the crops look between Central Illinois and Ohio?
By and large, pretty decent.
Did it?
Yeah. For the most part. I mean, yeah. Of course, you only see what's next to the road, but for the most part, pretty good.
And that's going to start getting a little bit deceiving here in the next couple of weeks because, things are naturally maturing. It's going to start looking ratty, when it's actually not. But I'm still thinking it's going to be the 10th to 15th of September. I mean, what is today? Like the 26th?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. So, yeah, it'll be, I'm going to say 10th to 15th of September for us, I think.
Yeah, it's turning pretty quick. I couldn't believe the change from when we left to when we got back,
Yeah.
There was a drastic, noticeable difference.
Yeah, that stuff, it's really cooking now. I think we had a heat index of like 100 today or 105, whatever it was, and just going to be hotter this week. So yeah, it's going to change in a hurry now.
Yeah, it was hot.
In fact, I seen 2 fields of beans today that are just getting a yellow tint to them, and you can tell it's not like a patch of SDS. I mean, it's the whole field, just starting to get a little bit of, yep. So
yeah,
it won't be long. But.
No, combines will be rolling.
Yep. You going to go to Decatur or Rantoul, Farm Progress Show or Half Century Progress, either one?
Haven't decided yet.
Yeah.
Might go to Rantoul. Shide's Extravaganza is the same weekend. This coming weekend, so I haven't decided if we're going north or going south or staying home.
Now, is Shide still in Terre Haute?
No, it's in Lyons, Indiana now.
Oh, okay.
So if the goal was to move it where it wouldn't bother anybody, I'd say mission accomplished.
Really?
It's a great spot, and it's a nice facility, and they're doing stuff to it all the time, but it is literally in the middle of a cornfield.
No kidding.
Yeah, which is great because the city of Terre Haute is missing out on a ton of income, and they were a little short-sighted on that. But
that started getting a little bit crazy over there, didn't
it? It did get a little bit crazy, I think, for a while. I mean, I don't ever get into any of that because we usually didn't spend the night over there.
Yeah,
it wasn't a big deal, but
never been to that either.
It was getting out of hand, and then the cops kind of come raining down, and that was hurting attendance. And now it's in a perfect spot.
Yeah.
For it now, it's out of everybody's way,
yeah.
And there's a lot of camping there now, and
yeah.
And then that avoids a lot of your other issues, and then
it had to be a racket. I mean, every kid with a Cummins motor in their truck.
Every kid with a Cummins and a credit card is what we always say.
And the smoke, black smoke, and I mean, it just.
Dad was always just flabbergasted at how many vehicles you would see that were pretty new, all jacked up, pimped out, whatever. Some of them with dealer's plates on them, some of them with temporary plates. They just got them or whatever, and they're just out doing whatever, cruising around, rodding them around or whatever. And he's like, that's a $50,000 truck. I'm like, yeah, I don't think they care, It doesn't look like it bothers them,
Yeah, because they always set up dynos, didn't they, for trucks, and people was always...
And they still do all that same stuff.
Do they?
Excuse me, there's a drag strip there, so they drag race stuff all day long. They get the polls throughout the day and night. Vendors market and whatever. It's a neat deal. And the Rantoul thing, have you ever been to the Half Century Progress?
No, I haven't.
So it is awesome if you're into older stuff. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be into older stuff. If you can just appreciate older stuff, it's totally worth going. Everything from steam engines to, on up to the 50 Series Internationals, I don't know what that equates to in John Deere world, probably about 50 Series John Deeres.
Yeah.
There's just all kinds of unique stuff you didn't even know they made. One thing I saw the last time I was there was it was an old paddle auger.
Really?
But that was how augers were. They were,
sure.
It wasn't flighted. It was paddles in a chain, basically. Mm-hmm. And you see some of that stuff, old combines, whatnot, because they harvest and everything there and whatnot, just like the Farm Progress Show, only with old stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's just very, you look at that stuff, you're like, man, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, there's nothing easy about the way we used to do it,
I mean, shoot, it sounds like that thing's getting almost as big as a Farm Progress Show attendance-wise. I mean, everybody I talk to is going
I can tell you one thing. Don't go without a golf cart or a side-by-side or something, because it's big enough you're not going to want to walk it.
Yeah, basically, for those of you not in the area, which we're almost right in between the two, Decatur's 35, 40 miles to the north of us, and Rantoul's, 60, 70 mile, whatever it is, to the northeast of us.
Yeah.
But, it's on a big Air Force base that closed down years ago when we were kids. And
during the Clinton era.
Yeah. And so how many acres do they have there that they actually plow and harvest? I mean, it's a couple hundred, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, shoot, if every guy there that takes a tractor and plow, I mean, you're going to have 80 acres just so them guys can make one pass, let alone...
No doubt. And it is neat to see all that old stuff out there plowing. And there's some customized stuff or whatever, But it's pretty neat. A lot of different vendors. If you're restoring a tractor and you need an emblem or some other part or whatever, somebody there's probably got it.
Yeah.
So it's awesome from that standpoint. It's a nice show.
Now, there's no tractor pull there, is there?
No, there is.
There is, okay.
There is. There is a tractor pull there, so we might go up there for that.
Yeah. Now, will it have tractors like yours there pulling? Okay, I didn't know if they tried to stick with the older stuff.
No, they've got everything from antique stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it a 1 day pull, 2 day?
Yeah. ITPA that I would run in is only there for 1 day, I think. But I know they have more than 1 day.
Okay.
Yeah, they have more than 1 day. I can't tell you how many days, but I know they have more than one.
Gotcha.
and they'll have, like Kinsey will have, some cool tractors there. There'll be a John Deere section, an IH section, multiple IH John Deere sections, different collections. Usually, so if you're bringing 6 tractors, you'll park them together no matter what the varieties are.
Yeah.
But it's a neat deal. There's a lot, like I said, anything and from that era, from, F20s to 5088s.
Yep.
It'll be there.
I'll be darned. Now, that's all kind of broken up into groups, and ain't it? Like you'll have, your old John Deere A's with 2 bottom plows kind of over.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, some of it's intermixed, but, kind of separate too.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It really doesn't. But, yeah, it's set up really well.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably the only place in the world you're going to see multiple 70 series 2+2s.
Yeah, right.
Super 70s.
Yeah.
There'll be 2 or 3, 4 of them there, probably. I know the Harms boys got 2 of them. They're always there. So all kinds of stuff like that you're not just going to drive by a random farm and swing in and see.
Yeah.
A lot of experimental stuff. I think there was a tractor there a few years ago. It was a big Deere 4-wheel drive. And I think it was DMI's test tractor at one time, I think. So they could, try to overload their chisel plows and fall tillage equipment or whatever, so they could really pull them to the max and essentially beat them up.
Sure.
So they knew they would take the tractor that the guy was actually going to use on it. Mm-hmm. So I don't even remember what it was now, but it was, it had been all customed out and it was a pretty neat deal. Like I said, all kinds of stuff like that.
I think one of the big buds was there last time. Now I don't know.
I think it was the big one, the 16V or whatever, 747.
Montana or wherever it's from. Yeah, I don't know that it's going to be there this year. I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
Somebody had said something about there might be a big bud. I don't think it's going to be that one because that's kind of a chore just hauling that thing around.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of work to move. Yeah. So time you take the tires on and off, that's a lot of work to move. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff there. I mean, people will bring combines in there, anything they've got old sitting around. Some of it restored, some of it original.
Yeah.
Everything in between.
That's what's cool in this area. You don't see anybody that has an old restored combine.
No.
But I see a lot of videos from up there. Yeah, I mean, there'll
be some.
Yeah, be just like a brand new one.
Yeah. Which kind of flabbergasts me, but I guess if you're into that,
Yeah, it is cool.
I'm glad people are. Yeah. That's not my bag, but I'm glad people do it,
Yeah.
So, like I said, if you want to see a 4320 front wheel assist or a 1066 front wheel assist or something that they made, but you may never seen one in person, there'll be 6 of them there.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and it's pretty much any brand under the sun. And I mean, stuff you've never even heard of.
Stuff you've never even heard of. One of the neat things, I don't remember how many different options M&W had for an M accessories, but it was a bunch. And there was a guy there that I think that had an M that had every M&W option you could get.
Really?
Yeah, on it, which was like 30-some things you could put on an M. I think he had them all.
No kidding.
I know I saw a tractor with some weird weights in International with like frame weights or something that I knew they made, but I'd never seen a tractor locally that ever had one.
Yeah.
This guy had a set, and just stuff like that that's pretty neat.
Yeah. Well, there's a local guy here that lives, 20 miles from us, and he's got for all you 60/30 fans, he's got a 60/30 with a set of tracks on the back.
Yeah.
And he was up there. I don't remember if he was plowing or what
he plowed.
Yeah. And, it does look neat. I'll give the guy that. I mean, it's something different.
Different. It's kind of modern technology thrown on an old tractor.
Yeah, and he done a very good job. He was an old John Deere mechanic, done a very good job of doing it. And in fact, I think Machinery Pete done a story on him either right before or right after that. And he went to Montana and picked them tracks up and whatnot. So, yeah, that's definitely one of the things I'd never seen, which they didn't make it. But, I mean, I've never even seen anybody else do an older tractor like that. And it's neat to see.
For sure. Like I said, the first and last 60/30 will be there, I'm sure, along with some in between. Yeah. Just a lot of repowered 60/30s, 50/20s. There won't be very many IH repowers because their engines were good. You didn't have to repower them.
Exactly.
But
and don't they have a parade ever so often down the runway or whatever?
Yeah, they go on a tractor drive and come parading back through and whatnot. That's all pretty neat. Like I said, you can't hardly take it all in a day.
Yeah, probably not.
Like I said, you want a golf cart because it's spread out.
Yeah. In fact, I wish I would have Googled some information before we started this. I could have mentioned it on here, but I think you can camp up there as far as I know, and then there's hotels. you're only like, what, 15, 20 miles at the most from Champaign-Urbana, which
you're not that far from Champaign. And Rantoul's got some hotels. They got They're one that used to be the military barracks, I think, is a hotel now. And I know there's a new Holiday Inn by the interstate.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
but overall, I guess they could be sold out, but there would be tons of hotel rooms.
Yeah.
Might be within 20 miles, but there would be plenty of rooms,
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, Champaign has a ton of hotel rooms.
Yeah, big college town. But
so, yeah, the only thing that nips up some of those is some people from the Farm Progress Show end up staying in Champaign too.
Yeah,
because Decatur has some, but not enough for everybody there.
Yeah, so. And if you're into that kind of stuff, because they're basically a week apart, so I assume there's probably a handful of people that, maybe from Nebraska, wherever, come for both.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
And, I mean, to me, I think that would be better than the Farm Progress Show. I mean, the Farm Progress Show is cool. I'm not knocking it. Don't misunderstand me. But it's a lot of shit that I'll never have.
I'll have it when it's old enough to be at the Half Century of Progress Show, right? I mean, the neat part about the Farm Progress Show for me is, and I don't mean to offend anybody about this, it's the same thing with the Louisville Farm Show, right? Like the stuff that Deere has, that Case has, that AGCO has, a new X9 combine, whatever. That's neat in its own right. But it's usually the short line companies that make this set of concaves that you didn't know existed, or something for your corn head, or a field cultivator sweep made out of better stuff, stuff like that you didn't know was out there, that you didn't even know you needed.
Right.
To me, those shows provide more value for that than. I always joke that nobody's buying a combine based on what they see at the Farm Progress.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Like you had your mind made up. Like the tillage demos, okay, you could be in between tillage products and you want to see them compared, and it's hard to get one from your dealer and take it out to your field and so on and so forth. But a combine, you're spending that kind of money, you're brand loyal, you know what you're buying.
Yeah, for sure.
For the most part, nobody went up there to buy an X9 and come home with a gleaner.
Yeah.
Right. Not to knock you gleaner guys, don't get upset.
Right.
But
that's reality.
But that's reality. You didn't make that decision based on the Farm Progress. It's neat that they're out there running them.
Yeah.
But you probably didn't make that decision based on it. But you might have bought a set of concaves, for your whatever combine based on some short line company you walked by that you didn't know existed. That part of it's pretty neat. But it's worth going, to either show or both, as far as that goes. But to see stuff in the actual field, the Half Century of Progress lights me up a little bit more than seeing the newer stuff. Like seeing another 8245R deer in the field.
Yeah. It's like I seen 15 on the way up to the show.
That doesn't wind me up. To see a 4020 side console, I got to hide in the corner because I'm just so stiff at that point in time. I just got to turn away, because they're awesome. But
exactly.
But it'll have options on it that you didn't know existed or have never seen in person, whatever. So some of that stuff's really, really neat. But
that's, I don't know, the like I say, the Farm Progress Show. The disappointing part to me at the Farm Progress Show, and I guess maybe it's more of old-fashioned me, it don't seem as big as when I was a kid because there's not as many companies.
They all got bought out.
Yeah, you've got a lot of that short line stuff, like you were saying, maybe concaves or whatever. But we were kids. I mean, you had Glencoe, Kiwanis. You can go on and on about the short line.
AGCO owns all of it.
Yeah, exactly.
AGCO bought a bunch of it.
Right.
And there's just not as many companies anymore because everybody's bought everybody out. Take seed corn.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There used to be. Let's just say 50 seed corn companies.
Yeah, you come up with 19 yardsticks.
Yeah, Bill and Jim Seed and Joe Seed and Bob Seed. And it's like, Monsanto bought all those guys.
Yeah.
So they might have kept the brand. They may have killed it off, but there's just not near as many.
And and where we're located in central Illinois, there's not much livestock. I mean, there is, but it's all the integrated hogs, not many cattle left. So you don't get that aspect of it up there. I mean, there'll be a few manure spreader companies, whatever.
Yeah.
But, for the most part, there's not a lot of livestock there. Virtually no irrigation because nobody irrigates around here.
No.
So, it would probably be a lot different here than like what Husker Harvest Days or something, which I've never been to that, but I'm sure it's a totally different show in its own right.
Because they're pushing products more for that region.
Yeah, cattle and irrigation and whatnot. So
what I always find intriguing about all those shows, not really the Half Century of Progress show, but the Farm Progress Show, the Farm Machinery Show, Husker Harvest, name your bigger shows with your major players, is the approach they take to try to draw people in their booth, the information they try to give them once they're in the booth, and then what they're doing with that after they get you in there. Mm-hmm. It's like some of those things, like you're going to stop by the Deere booth regardless. What they've got sitting out front, you're probably going to swing by there. But, like think it was the last Farm Machinery show. You know, Deere had their new planter, the we're taking Kinsey's market back planter. You know, and then they had that 4430 in there. I think it was a 4430.
Yeah.
That probably drew more people in there for that old 4430 repainted.
Oh yeah.
Than the planter did.
Yeah.
You know, it drew attention to the planter for sure.
Right.
Because that was the market they were going for. But a lot of people went in there to see that 4430 that wouldn't have stopped by that booth otherwise.
Exactly.
They were more excited about that than they were the new S90, 790 combine that was sitting across the way from it. They could care less about that, the gator and the lawnmower they had there.
Yeah.
You know, so it's always intriguing to me how different companies try to get you in there. And then some of them, you know, will have literally nothing in there. You're like, a seed corn company, okay, well, I don't need to see the bag of seed. So, you know, we've got some billboards in there. We've got some information. But what are they actually telling you in there? Okay, we've got 6 rows of corn growing in this flower pot. You know, see how great it is. Just different things. And what I like to stand back and people watch a little bit on that once in a while and see, like, okay, this drew them in. That didn't. You know, and then we'll throw the other thing in there. And I don't mean to offend anybody with this either, but ladies.
I was just getting ready to say that. They tend to get the good-looking ladies.
Ladies and how their attire is versus the you know, and some companies go all out of that.
Yeah,
like they're not trying to hide it.
Right.
We're going to be blatant about it, and that's how we're trying to draw them in.
Don't know a bag of seed corn from a bag of soybeans.
No,
she just handled it.
She doesn't have to.
No.
You know, depending on, and I see the same thing. Like the PRI shows, a big motorsports show in Indianapolis, and it's the same way there. You know, so it really doesn't matter what industry you're in. Some companies use it, some companies don't. And a lot of it has to do with what product you have to display. You know, if your product's easily viewed in a booth or if it's not, you know. So it's just intriguing to me on how companies approach it.
And to me, some of them seed companies, I mean, once again, you're not going there to buy seed. It's like, oh, I've never planted Pioneer, but I'm going to go to the Farm Progress Show and magically come away planting Pioneer.
Yeah.
You know, I guess some of them you have to go because you're part of the industry. And, you know, like now short corn is the big thing that they're kind of engineering things towards. So that'll probably be the next big whirlwind that they're pushing. But other than that, I don't really know what else there is that sets you different from.
Yeah. And some of it's a status thing. Like, okay, well, Monsanto's going, so we've got to go.
Yeah.
Or Bex is going, so we got to go. At some point in time, I always wonder if some company sits back and says, you know, we're spending $9 million a year on farm shows. What if we just lowered our prices 10% across the board? Will we sell as much seed corn or more seed corn?
Right.
You know, if we're not out there, somebody's doing a study on that, and clearly they think they'll sell more if they're present at those shows. But like some of those shows, I always walk by. You know, we'll just say it's Bill's company A. You know, and he's selling whatever product it is. And some, not all the time, but once in a while, you're like, dude, you're not going to sell a thing out of that show. I don't see where you gained anything by being there. And then other companies, you're like, well, I can't believe they were absent. You know, I thought that would have really went over. They should have been there, et cetera. You know, it's just intriguing to sit back and kind of watch that.
Maybe that's the blowback that these companies get. You know, if you went to the Farm Progress Show and Pioneer wasn't there, you're like, I can't believe Pioneer wasn't here. You wouldn't have went their tent. You wouldn't have talked to them. You wouldn't have done nothing. But you were disappointed.
They were noticeably absent.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of those shows turn into whining and dining our dealers, our customers, you know, our larger ones on different things. And it could be something as simple as a snow cone or a yardstick, or it could be, you know, we're going to take our big players out for supper, or, you know, we're using this as a chance to contact our dealers in this region to get them up here to, you know, show them product, you know, smack them on the back, say, hey, thanks, good job, send them on their way. I mean, there's a variety of things that play into that. But
and I think it's where the farmer feels like he got something, you know, because there'll be a lot of seed corn guys, they'll come around before the show and, hey, I got tickets to get you into the show. And then it's also good for a free pork burger at the decal tent, you know, whatever. Yeah. And so I guess then the farmer feels like, you know, well, you know, I was planting their seed, they gave me something. You know what I mean?
Exactly. The $15 hat made a difference in a $50,000 purchase.
Yeah. I don't like Decatur as much with all the golf carts now. It's handy to have.
But it's a nightmare if you're walking it.
And it's getting even to be ridiculous if you're driving, because it's literally stop and go, stop and go. I mean, you just can't do anything. It's just such a mob of people, and it almost takes the fun out of it. I'm to the point now, if I ever go back, it'll probably be back to walking, because it just, It's too hard to drive. I mean,
it's hard to get around. And that is the nice part about the half-century progress deal. It's space-wise has so much space that it's pretty easy to get around.
Yeah. Everybody I've talked to has really said how good of a show that is there at Grand Tool. It's laid out nice.
And hats off to the people that are willing to wax their stuff all up.
Yeah.
And take it up there, because it's not really, a lot of them, it's not benefiting them. It's just a chance to show off, their hard work. Mm-hmm. So hats off to them for doing it, because without them, there wouldn't be a show.
Do they do that anywhere else? Like, does Indiana have a deal like the half century?
Not that I know of. To my knowledge, it's just in Illinois every year that the
Farm Progress
shows back.
Well, I know the last time it was up there, there was people from Montana. There was all over the U.S. was there. It's like...
Which I always wonder if they wouldn't be better off doing it the years that the Farm Progress show's not here.
Right. I've wondered that too.
Because I don't have time to go to both. Mm-hmm. So...
Pick one or the other.
Yeah, I had to pick one or the other. The wife said I had to pick one or the other, so maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
you was talking about the Harms family earlier. They was pretty instrumental in getting that whole thing going, or their dad was.
I think so, yeah. Darius,
and
I think had a lot to do with that, yes. Yeah, he did. So Dirk and Derek are still involved in it, I believe. Matter of fact, I think there was a pamphlet in the Agri-News, had the directors and some other stuff on the back of it. I think their names were on there.
That's got to be a mountain of work getting it set up. And
yes, organizing everybody that wants to buy a space. Man. Everybody that wants to do this, that. It takes a ton of effort, I'm sure.
And I think for the most part, is most of that stuff pretty reasonable? Does it cost, like if I want to go up there and plow, do I have to pay $20?
I couldn't tell you. I don't think so, but I don't know. I don't think you do.
But that's got to be a lot of pressure in the spring on a year like this, getting it planted, because if you don't get it planted, you're not going to have a show.
Yeah, exactly.
You could maybe do some tillage, but you're not going to do anything crop-wise. So.
Yeah. So there's a lot of effort, and I'm sure mostly volunteer effort.
Yeah.
Put into that deal to make that work. And I don't know who even actually owns that base now.
I couldn't tell you either.
I don't know if that city around Tool owns that now, if they turned that over to them, or how that works. But
I wouldn't have the foggiest. And so I assume they just farm that in the off-season as regular row crops or whatever. I
assume so, yeah.
And then, I don't know how that works on the... Well, you think you'd lose a lot of grain, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt. It's pretty neat to see. It's worth going. For those that haven't been, it's worth going.
Yeah. Hope it ain't 900 degrees out. I should have went 2 years ago. It was the coolest day we would have had in August in like the last 25 years. It was like a high of like 70 that day.
Yeah.
Real nice day, and I didn't go, but...
Yeah, it's a nice show.
That's what always half turns me off on these farm shows, too. I know they can't have them in the fall because everybody's busy, but it's like, gosh, August is just brutal heat-wise.
Yeah. So. Seems like that's our hottest month anymore.
Yeah.
For sure is this year.
I'm trying to think. I think when we were kids, the Farm Progress show was later on in September. They'd moved it back about a month compared to like what it was in the 80s and 90s, because I remember a lot of times, like my grandpa and them older guys, they couldn't go because they were harvesting, which I understand why they moved it back to get more people there.
Yeah.
But it was definitely cooler then. I know that for sure.
Yeah. I'm glad they finally picked permanent spots for it, though.
Yeah, that needs to be mandatory on that stuff.
It was so much work to orchestrate that and move it around all the time. And then, the booths have got way nicer. We have permanent grain bins now. And
you're not waiting in mud if it rains or something.
Yeah, they've got them landscaped up nice, and it's, paved roads, and it's way better.
Yeah, that I would agree with. And I'm trying to think now, they got several permanent structures, machine sheds, grain bins. And I thought, did I read Morton was actually going to build a house or something up here?
Know. Maybe.
And I think, and don't quote me on this, but I think they was actually going to do like a demonstration of building a house. Now, I'm not sure how far completed they're going to do,
really?
Which, they'll just take it back down after the show or whatever they're going to do. It maybe turn it into an office or something. I don't know, but I think I seen that. They're going to do a demonstration on actually building.
That's pretty cool. They got a pretty good sized shed up there now.
Yeah. Yep. And there's a few grain bins and.
Yeah. Sizable ones at that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Somebody said they was cutting beans up there either today or tomorrow for where parking is going to be.
Yeah.
So they was going to get the beans off, and I don't know. Some of them maybe they spray them, to kill them. I don't know how.
Well, I think the government's paying them to destroy the crops, so they're just knocking them out early.
That could be.
For those of you listening, that was a joke.
Yeah. Yeah. It's too bad we couldn't do a live podcast from the Farm Progress Show, but I just don't.
Well, I was thinking of that when I was at Bowling Green. I'm like, we should have come out to the campground and did a live podcast, but nobody would be able to hear it.
That's just
so
it.
It probably wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
But we probably could have put something small together and did one from the trailer or something,
Yeah.
Just not let everybody know, but let enough people know, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Bring in some guests, etc., kind of a road show.
Right. I've actually had several people tell us that we need to video this while we're doing it. I mean,
yeah, and we've talked about that, It's just too blasted hot right now. We'd have to do it outside. Well, we wouldn't have to, I don't guess.
Well, no, we wouldn't have to. The thing that gets me is, so like on my YouTube channel, if I upload like a 20-minute video on my farm channel, I mean, man, it takes forever on YouTube, and here you get a podcast going an hour, little over. Why?
Yeah,
going to take you 3 days just to get it uploaded. But.
Yeah, which I mean, I guess we tried combining one with a Facebook Live once, didn't we? I don't think we ever released it. We played with that in the upstairs once.
Yeah, we did. That's right.
We need better internet to make all that.
Yeah, we do. I wish they would get their rural fiber optic lane.
Yeah, no doubt.
I have nothing here.
They're holding us back.
Yeah. I have an AT&T hotspot that barely works as my internet. Satellite internet don't work. I can't get landline internet. It sucks.
Well, that's what happens when you live in the woods, too.
I know. You'd think all these damn infrastructure bills rolling through Congress to help
$1 trillion infrastructure bill would take care of that.
It'll be one of them deals. Everybody else in America will get it except me.
Well, I'm getting some discount electronics and a gently used Humvee from Afghans.
Yeah.
So bought it over the internet. It was on eBay.
Yeah.
So I got that coming. So.
What a shit show.
Yeah.
God.
Probably need to go down that path. But yeah, what a joke.
No, we don't. It's sad.
Yeah. No doubt.
So is polling all done for the season?
No. There's still a fair amount left.
Is there?
Yeah.
How late does polling normally go? Into September?
Yeah. September, it's usually over. Now, Ohio has several fairs after that, I believe.
Really?
So I think not on a Grand National level, but State Hook.
Yeah.
State Hook and whatnot, I think you can pull into October over there.
Yeah.
Everything pretty well wraps up here late September. Des Moines coming up, the Southern Illinois State Fair is coming up in a couple of weeks, or maybe it's next week. Might be next Tuesday.
Yeah.
For us. Otherwise, like Sandwich, Illinois is about our last one.
Yeah.
And that's about the last fair in Illinois that I know of.
Oh, we don't.
Which it's a killer fair, big fair.
Yeah.
Really nice place.
I know Pinckneyville, Illinois had the
Thresherman's deal last weekend. Yeah. That's a big deal. I wish those didn't land the same weekend. Once in a while they don't, but usually they do. And that's an awesome show too.
Yeah. I was down there when I was, couldn't have been 12, 13 years old. Was probably the last time I was ever down there. But boy, there's a lot of people around here go down to that.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's kind of a swap meet. It's about like a little mini Ram Duel type deal. I mean, I don't know if they do any field demonstration, but a lot of people bringing old tractors and swapping and
absolutely
tractor pulling and I forget what all.
It's a nice deal. Threshermans do a great job with that, And there again, they put a ton of time and effort into it for essentially no payback, but they put a lot of.
Does that coincide with like a county fair or anything down there? Is that sort of their
own? No, that's their own deal.
That's their own deal.
I don't know I can't remember the county fair that goes with Pinckneyville, but that happens earlier in the year.
Oh, we don't.
I can't think what county that is, but that's earlier in the year. And the Thresherman's deal is their own.
Man, they've been having that for years. Because like I say, I was 10, 12 years old when we went, and I know they'd been having well before that time. So it's hard to believe some of that stuff has actually held together that long. You know what I mean? People lose interest and
it's hard to find that many volunteers, right?
It is, yeah.
It doesn't matter what you're doing. It's hard to get enough people to help anymore.
And that's even more of a niche deal on steam engines. There's a lot of people into old tractors, but you start talking steam engines and stuff, you're getting way back.
I was pretty impressed to see it, and I could be wrong on this, but I think that some of the refuse pickup in Bowling Green was by a couple different FFA groups, maybe just the one, I don't know, but somebody told me they were FFA kids, and I know the one group of cleanup people was young, looked like high school kids, and hats off to them. It's hard to find that many high school kids willing to go out and do something there to help their club out. So, I'm sure they're getting paid for it, but the individuals aren't. The club is, I'm sure. So it's tough to find that, and they did a good job. And I think they were FFA kids, from what I was told by the one guy, but I could have been wrong. But
I mean, God, with that many people drinking beer and everything else, that had to be a full time.
It's an insane amount. Yeah. Yeah, they dump trash cans a lot.
They probably just do it for the beer cans. You get $25,000 worth of aluminum.
yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Out there, could you bring your own, or you got to buy it?
It's all bring your own.
Oh, it's all bring your own.
They don't sell any beer on the property that I know of.
No kidding.
It's all bring your own.
I'll be darned. So you cans, bottles, whatever.
No bottles.
No bottles. I didn't know if they got picky on.
No glass.
Yep.
Yeah, no glass.
So they got to search everything when you're coming in. Then
they check your coolers when you're coming in.
I'll be darned.
To the grandstands and whatnot. When you go through the entry gates. But I mean, I don't know if they ever run into any trouble on that. It's pretty easy.
Yeah. Is that sloped on both sides of the track, like everybody sitting in lawn chairs? I didn't realize, like, I know there was bleachers, but I seen like rows of people sitting in lawn chairs.
No, it's not sloped.
I didn't know, so you could see, once you got 25 deep in lawn chairs.
No,
I didn't know.
It's all flat there.
Really?
For the most part. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty well flat.
Yeah, it sure looks like a good time. I've seen several videos on TikTok, people that was there. And
that's just the county fairgrounds,
Really?
Yeah, that's Wood County Fairgrounds. The blue shirts, Northwest Ohio Tractor Pullers rent it from them, and I'm sure it helps them out.
Yeah,
quite a bit. So,
and they run 2 tracks.
Yes, 2. Yep.
And gosh, it looked like, just from the videos I seen on TikTok, there was virtually every class under the sun.
Yeah.
That I seen. I mean, there was a lot of stuff.
All the big stuff's there.
I seen what happened. Is it Austin Boyd?
Yeah.
Runs a mini rod. Something come apart on his.
Yeah, I think the transmission exploded or something.
Okay,
yeah.
I seen he kicked his feet up on the video, and then he showed the aftermath, and there was...
Yeah, I saw that TikTok, too. I didn't see it actually happen because we were busy at the time, but yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that looked like quite the... Because he made a comment, something about, thank God for good safety equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing was sitting right between his legs.
Yeah.
I mean,
one of the coolest storylines from Bowling Green was Patrick Gentry ran Kevin Masterson's River Rat. First time he'd ever drove it. Won the first session, got third in the second session, and won the ring. First 2 times he'd ever drove.
Is that
first time he'd ever been to Bowling Green, to my knowledge?
No kidding.
So it was pretty cool to see.
Now, had he drove a pulling tractor?
No. Well, not a pro stock. Really? I don't know if he'd driven anything else before or not. I don't think so.
Wow.
But I guess I didn't ask him that. But super great guy, great family, great team, and they got it done. Those Cinderella stories like that, they come out of nowhere are always the fun stuff. The frustrating part is, you talk to another guy, he's like, man, I've been here 45 years. I've never won this deal, I've spent all I can spend, I've done all I can do, and then this guy just shows up, bang, gets it done. But so much out there plays into numbers or whatever, but he made 2 killer passes and did a great job.
Oh, we did.
And hats off to him. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Yeah. Gosh, them Mastersons, they've been pulling a long time, ain't they?
Long time.
Unreal. Yeah. Are they out of New York?
No, Grandview, Indiana.
Oh, Indiana. Okay.
Yeah,
I guess
Grandview, Indiana.
I was thinking they was out of New York for whatever reason.
No, about as far south in Indiana as you can get. They overlook the Ohio River.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So that's where the River Rat, I guess, come from on the...
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. They neat little spot down there.
Yeah.
Pretty. Yep. Basically straight across the river from like Owensboro, Kentucky.
Oh, really?
More or less. Yeah. Yep. If I remember right. It's been a few years since I've been down there, but yeah. Like I said, great family, great pullers.
Yeah. Any wild wrecks out there? Any catastrophic failures?
Nothing too, wasn't like a few years ago where a guy's engine literally fell off and kept running. There was a mini rod that come unhooked. That was kind of neat.
I did see
not
that.
for him,
right?
But it was neat for the crowd. They liked it. But there were several local guys here that did good. Bollingers from Stonington had an awesome weekend. Craig and Ashley Corzine, they had an awesome weekend. So it's always good to see.
Yep.
Illinois people are local to us.
Sure.
Do really well. So
now, do they get into the trucks and that stuff too out there?
Yeah, there's trucks out there. Okay. These were mods that they pull now, but yeah, there's 2-wheel drive trucks.
So like the Nelson boys?
Yeah, all the Nelsons were there, their whole crew.
Which, God, they got enough to make up their own class.
Just about, yeah.
That was, it's probably been a month ago on a Saturday afternoon. I was flipping through and it just come on tractor pulling something. It was out of somewhere in Iowa, and they had trucks. And I knew, there was the couple brothers there or whatever, and the dad on the Nelsons, which they just lived 20 miles south of us.
Yeah.
But I didn't know who all was who. And, of course, the one got married in to a pulling family. And, gosh, I mean, them guys went right down the line. There was like 8 of them, or whatever.
It was probably Farley, Iowa,
Yeah, it was. It's Farley, Iowa.
Yeah. They got a bunch. They got a bunch of trucks for sure.
Yeah, it's like that's a whole fleet just to
Yeah,
get it
if they show up to a state pull, I mean, they literally have a whole show with them. You know, if you're into trucks, they got it all with them. So it's pretty neat. Like I said, to see local guys do. And, you know, Craig switched back and forth a couple different classes, and so did Steve and Tom and his crew. So there was a lot of engine swapping, combination changing, tire changing, whatever, and they were humping right through it. But they got a lot of good people with them, and did a really, really good job. You know, like
now maybe you can tell me on the modified tractors, and I could be totally off here. I don't know, and I don't think it was Boyd's, but it was somebody in Bowling Green. You know, it was one of them tractors, and it had 3-4 engines, however many it was on it.
Yep.
But they were putting one of them engines on now. They don't have to do that to haul them, do they? Do them get too wide they won't fit in a trailer, or do they?
No, they do that to switch classes.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I never really paid.
Like Bollinger's, for instance, they run the light unlimited class with 2 engines, but then they also run the unlimited class and they put 3 on.
Really?
So they set the third one on in between sessions.
I'll be darned. How big of a job is that? I mean, probably not all that bad.
It's not terrible. Yeah. There, it didn't look bad. I'm parked right across from them, across the fence. It didn't look bad from where I was standing.
Yeah, exactly.
They were knocking it out pretty quick. So it's not terrible. But like Craig runs different blower setups for a couple different classes that he runs, so they had to pop all that off and swap superchargers and whatnot, and they got it knocked out fast, you know, and did good in all classes. So.
That's got to be crazy in heat like that. You know, you
stood
stood around in a fire suit, and then you finally pulled. Now you got to hurry up and strip all that off.
And all that stuff's hot, right? I mean, 2 of those engines you're working on are hot.
Exactly.
You know, so they're not fun. You know, you got to have people that know what they're doing and they're good quality help, and they do. You know, it's just neat. You know, for the average fan that's seeing them go down the track that doesn't know them. You know, I guess it's a little different for them probably than it is for me. It's like.
You're kind of behind the scenes a little bit and see
somewhat, but it's just neat to know that the guys that you know on a more personal level are competing at that level and doing very well at it.
Yeah,
you know, I don't know John Force personally, but in the tractor pull world, those guys are the John Force type characters. You know that are doing good, and it's just nice to see that. Yeah,
well, like that deal with the motors, I had no clue that they'd done that. I just assumed. Yeah. You know, if it had 3 motors on it, that's just what it had. I didn't realize they were swapping.
Sometimes, but they swap them around. You know, they used to have 3 Allisons, and they would swap 1 Allison off, you know, for the different classes and whatnot, which is probably a little bit more of a chore because they're a little heavier and a little bigger, a little more awkward to mess with. But
now, how do them guys do that? Like, obviously, you cherry pick or whatever to pick a motor up, but how are you doing that on grass? You know,
they bring a telehandler around.
Oh, so, that's what. Okay.
Some guys have a deal they'll swing out of their trailer, but most of the time. They've got a ton of telehandlers around there, and
I see.
You know, they'll bring a telehandler over there and get the motor off. And like Boyd's tore the rear end out of one of their tractors. They brought a telehandler over there and yanked that stuff out and put it back in. And
well, that's good that they kind of accommodate people.
Yeah, they're very accommodating on that.
Which I guess it all comes down to how many tractors do you want here. I mean, if everybody tears it up the first day, then we're going home. You know, unless you can accommodate us. So
exactly. So they can swap those engines on and off pretty fast when they need to.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they done that. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, and get a gearbox they couple into, and it didn't take them too long.
Yeah, that's something. Them modifieds, boy, that's a whole different animal there. Animal.
And it has come so far, you know, and a lot of that stuff directly correlates to drag race technology too, right? Like so, some of the major engine builders for that now make pulling engine stuff.
Oh, really?
Versions of it and whatnot. Yeah, it's come a long way. Unfortunately, from a fan standpoint, you know, it's getting narrowed down to Hemis.
Yeah.
More and more and more. Yeah. You know, we're used to turbines, Allisons, Packards, Chevys, you know, different combinations, variety of this, that, and the other. It's getting more and more narrowed down to high performance Hemis.
Sure.
But it's still cool in its own right. You know?
Well, I mean, I would think, like on Allison engines and stuff, at some point in time, them got to be getting few and far
between.
They're
hard to find.
I mean, it got to be.
They're almost impossible to find at this point.
And I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but usually when one of them guys scatters something, there's probably no fixing it. I mean, most of that stuff seems to come apart pretty bad. I mean,
it's hard to, like I said, the Allison stuff's, you can't find it.
Yeah.
And like I say, you window a block. How many guys do you know that can weld magnesium?
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Not a lot.
Right.
You know, there are people that do it, but I think, but there's not they're not on every street corner.
Yeah.
You know, so those old Allisons, I love those things. If I had just buku Jeff Bezos money, that'd be my go-to. I would remake Allisons.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could listen to those things per, You know, I'd like to put some new technology in, but it'd be so brutally expensive. But I would like to do it just because I like those things. If I got to go down the spark plug route,
right?
Which I'm not a spark plug guy, but the Allisons intrigue me.
Yeah,
just because they're military history.
How old would some of them Allison motors be that these guys were using?
30s and 40s.
Man, that is unreal, ain't it?
World War II, basically. You know, so I think one of those guys told me at one time, like in the 80s when they were pulling those, and I think I seen an ad for it on the internet. You know, somebody posted a picture of an old ad that they were for sale, and there's a big warehouse for them in Texas, and for like $800 you could buy a brand new one in a crate.
No kidding.
So they go down, pickup truck, $800, throw it in the back, bring it back, and they'd pump hot diesel fuel through it to get the cosmoline out.
Yeah, because
they were packed for shipping and for wet climate. Boom, fire up, go to the pull. And then of course it progressed from that. They had to, they're putting accessories on it and more and more performance stuff. But at one time, I mean, they were basically stock Allisons.
Yeah.
A bunch of those ended up in the irrigation world. They were because they were so cheap. They were irrigation motors.
Is that right?
Yeah. Like it's not uncommon to talk to some of those old pullers and be like, we were cruising along here somewhere. It's like, hear this motor purr in the background. It's like, that's an Allison, So they'd try to find the farmer and try to buy it or whatever.
Wow.
Neat stuff like that, or find them in a museum, so on and so forth. They're still big amongst plane restorers and boat racing, I think, still. Yeah. But they're few and far between. Bollinger's probably have one of the largest collections of them.
Is that right?
Yeah, I would guess. I don't know anybody that's got that many.
Yeah.
Not that I'm a expert on it by any means, but they're getting pretty hard to find. And Packers are kind of the same way.
Yeah. You know damn well that all started years ago when some guy wanted to get the upper hand, so I want to get me an Allison.
Well, it's got 12 cylinders today.
Yep, and then now it's become the industry standard.
There used to be a big warehouse when scrap got high, and I can't tell you when it was. I'm going to tell you it's in the 90s, but I could be way off on that. There was a warehouse, I want to say in Arizona, that had hundreds of them, and they melted them down because there's so many rare materials. And I'm like, I think the bearings in those things got a little silver in them maybe, and the blocks are magnesium, and, they were built to be super strong but super lightweight.
Yeah.
So they melted them down, which is a crying shame. You always hear stories, World War II were coming back and they were shoving them off the boats so they could make it home faster. There's probably a bajillion of those things laying in the ocean somewhere.
Man.
But
now, was that the same Allison company that went on to make transmissions, or was that totally different? Or do you even know? I
don't know for sure. I think so, but I wouldn't swear to it.
Yeah.
I know it was out of Indianapolis, and isn't that where the Allison transmissions ended up being?
Could be, yeah, I'm not sure.
I think they're related somehow or another.
Yeah.
I could be 100% wrong on that, and I'm sure Jeff or John will correct me on this when I talk to him next. But, I think they were related. And that Allison engine, for its time, was probably the most precision-made engine for sure at its time.
Really?
Yeah, like it was, you buy a 350 Chevy, which you weren't buying those in World War II, but, and that's kind of sloppy. It fits, it runs, it's fine. Those things were down to the gnats patooed.
Oh, we don't.
Yeah, they were, I talked to a guy one time and I was giving him my whole, if I had unlimited funds, remake them. He's like, honestly, Nick, I don't think you can remake them any better than they did.
Yeah.
They were pretty well spot on, perfect back then. I mean, there's got to be a way to feed them more air because turbo technology, so those have a supercharger on the front of them. And that technology has changed. I mean, I'm sure there's some things a guy could do there, but they are super precision for their day.
Was them pretty much for planes only in the war, or did
Allison
they use
was planes only, I think. Packards, I think, were in boats.
Gotcha.
And maybe tanks. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure Allisons were almost exclusively in planes.
So I wonder what, like a bone stock, which I don't know when you start talking cubes or how big them motors are.
1,710 cubic inch.
Really?
An Allison is.
And was that pretty much
bigger? But
was that pretty much just standard? They didn't make like 4 different models. I mean, that was pretty much
standard. They worked on a few. If you ever want to read an awesome book on that, and if you're into World War II history at all, and you don't even care about tractor pulling, it's still a great book. It's called V for Victory. I've got the book. I'll have to dig it out. And it goes through the whole history of the Allison aircraft engine and whatnot. And so they made a variety of different engines, but the big 1710 at the end was awesome. They even made an X version of it where they put 2 of them together. So then it was, 3,400 and some or whatever.
No kidding.
Yeah. Now that one never really hit production. I don't know what, I'd have to go back and reread the book on why it didn't.
Yeah.
And they were coming out with a new version. And then but then jet engines were coming out and they're like, wasting our time here.
Yep.
And so the Merlin was basically a refined, advanced, little bit different version of the Allison, to my understanding, that we ended up putting in the planes late in World War II.
Gotcha.
It had a little more power.
Yeah, because you never hear like the Pratt and Whitney. Them was big airplane, but you never hear anything about. I mean, I wonder if that something that can't be done, or just wasn't a good motor, or
I don't know. So I've asked some of my buddies from Europe. I'm like, the Germans had everything at one time. Where's their awesome engine? And I don't really think they had one.
Really?
Like they started the war with whatever they had, and that thing was awesome till everybody else tooled up, and then it wasn't that good.
I'll be darned.
Russians had the radial engine, which was kind of neat, but that's not very practical for pulling. It doesn't fit very well and whatnot. So,
yeah, the first time I ever seen one of them radials, I thought, man, that's the weirdest.
yeah, it's pretty neat. Yeah.
But yeah, hell, it'd be cool sometime to get some of these pulling guys down here on the podcast.
Yeah, we can probably make that happen.
I'd take a few guests. A lot of them seem like a lot of the guys that are in it now have been in it a long time. It's not like there's a lot of in and out in that sport,
No. And once you kind of make the investment and work your way up, it's hard to get in at the top level unless you got a lot to go with. So a lot of the guys have worked their way up over the years.
Yeah, I don't know any of these people that you talk about. I know their names and can name some of the tractors that they pull, but I don't know the guys personally. But I mean, they've been in it since I was a kid, it seems like.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
That's pretty neat to stick with it that long. I mean, they've traveled a lot of miles and made a lot of passes down the track.
A lot of windshield time, for sure.
Yeah. What's the farthest you guys go now?
Oh, I don't get super far anymore, just because I'm getting older and kids got stuff going on and whatnot, and I just don't chase it as hard as I used to. But we've been all the way to New York, Canada a couple of times. Don't get very far west usually.
Yeah. How about south? Anything?
South, Chapel Hill, Tennessee is about as far as south as I get. Yeah.
Is tractor pulling a big thing when you get, whether it's Georgia or wherever?
Not on the Grand National level, but I think they pull down there a fair amount.
We don't.
But there's no big ones to my knowledge. Part of that problem is you get super far south, like Chapel Hill's track's really good, but some of those places you get in the south, the soil's just not spectacular.
Really?
So, and it's so blasted hot.
Yeah.
That, summer sports are usually in the water.
Sure.
Yep. It's tough to talk somebody into going down where it's, 105 in the shade.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, like when you mentioned West, Doug, Montana farmer, he's never been to a tractor pull of any kind, not even your local shit pulling floor.
He tried to go to Toma, Wisconsin this year, and he got there just in time to watch it rain. So.
Yeah. So, it's kind of a regional thing, I guess.
I actually met a guy that cut wheat with him.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. To my understanding, had just been up there pretty recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And knew Doug and whatnot. So, it gets to be a pretty small world.
Yeah, for sure.
Once you start tying everybody together on the internet. So.
Yep, it sure does. So, well, what do you think? Wind her down on this one.
Yeah,
we pretty much covered
Whole
Town, USA. Sound like it was a good time. And
it was a good time. Everybody should go once, if not 54 times.
Yeah. Yeah, you've been telling me for a long time, need to go, and I do need to just break down and go one of these years, maybe next year. And
like I say, it's not just a tractor pull, it's an event.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it cool. It's something special.
Yeah.
Like buddy might say, oh, you could go here, you could go there. I'm like, yeah, there's only one place in the world giving Bowling Green rings away, though.
Yeah.
So they've got a ring for the top finisher in each class.
Is that right?
On the average. And it's like a Super Bowl ring.
No kidding.
Made by the same company, I think.
Really?
At least at one time it was.
So they do it upright then.
They do it upright. And it, it's a pretty honorable thing to end up with one of those. So.
Yeah, I mean, that almost gets more fanfare than like Louisville. I mean, when I was a kid, Louisville was like the Cadillac of tractor pulling.
Which Louisville's still a big deal on its own, but Bowling Green's Bowling Green.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's an event, and
it's an experience.
It's an experience, yeah. It's something. It's something all its own. I mean, there's some other big pulls for sure, but Bowling Green is Bowling Green.
And now, did you tell me that's like the national? Is that like a national final type? I mean, explain to me in the tractor pull world, or is it just nothing? It's just
it's a points pull on the NTPA Grand National Circuit, and they've had different organizations sanctioned over the years, but it's been NTPA for a number of years now. But it's put on by the Northwest Ohio Tractor Pullers Association, which, to my knowledge, that's the only event they do now. And they're called the Blue Shirts. They all wear these light blue shirts, and it's a group of volunteers, roughly 200 volunteers, and they orchestrate this whole deal. And like I said, it's a great deal for the community, and it's, I think, the single largest fundraising event for Make-A-Wish in that area. So I think the Make-A-Wish organization out there, I think, is like Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. Maybe I could be wrong on that. Don't get upset if I'm wrong on the region, but that's one of their largest events for sure.
And then, yeah, you said there's an auction.
So there's an auction on Saturday, a charity auction from 3 to 5 roughly, where a lot of pullers will donate different things. And it could be anything from a set of headers that you've autographed to, some T-shirts to a few years ago, there was the Mack Trailer guys built up a golf cart that looked like a semi. Mm-hmm. All kinds of stuff like that. A good friend of mine donated a set of tires and wheels. Lots of different items. Mm-hmm. And they get auctioned off. And that alone usually nets 75 to 100.
And that all goes to Make-A-Wish?
And that all goes to Make-A-Wish.
That's pretty cool.
That all goes to Make-A-Wish. And they bring in some kids from the Make-A-Wish Foundation to kind of see the tractors and this, that, and the other some. And it's pretty gut-wrenching to see some of the stuff those kids are going through. For sure. And whatnot. And it makes you thank God, for your own kids and the health that they're, enjoying. Because some of those kids got a pretty rough road to hoe.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's pretty easy to want to donate to them or help them out because, not everybody's got it as easy as the next guy. Yeah. So it's a big deal, and it's a great deal for them.
Yeah.
Larry Kester, who passed away a few years back, used to be a real big proponent of it, would be Ashley Corzine's dad.
Okay.
Craig Corzine's wife. And we ended up doing really good out there and just lives, 30 miles from us, 30, 40 miles. So he was big time into the Make-A-Wish thing and really helped promote it and whatnot. He didn't have any legs.
Oh, really?
Cut off in a farm accident from the knee down.
No kidding.
So he was a pretty easy spokesman for him.
Sure.
And very well spoken, very, very energetic guy, very hard hitting, just good spokesman for him. Yeah. And it was pretty easy when Larry come by with a bucket to throw some money on it.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, that's good. They have a big pull like that, big turnout, and they can give something back that way.
Back. Like I said, it's, if you watch the bucket gets passed around the grandstand, it doesn't go by very many people that don't throw something in it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. And, you don't have to be a lot.
Right.
But with that many people, $5, $10, $20,
yep.
$100 here or there adds up pretty fast.
Well, that's the cool part, too. 99% of the people sitting in the stands are just blue-collar people that generally give to that kind of stuff. And,
exactly.
It may not be a lot, but it's something. And that's pretty neat.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up here. So is there anything else you want to cover? Anything?
No, we'll save it for the next one. Okay,
sounds good. Well, there it is, guys. Thanks for tuning into the Straightforward Farming Podcast. We'll see you next time.